Okay, it is straight up 6 o'clock, and since we are wanting to keep this short and sweet for everybody, I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you haven't yet, and I think everybody here has, but put your name and your location in the chat, and I am going to pass it over to Crystal. Take it away, Crystal. We want to know, how do we get our children to follow directions?
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Crystal Overfelt. I am the Conscious Discipline Trainer for the Head Start and Early Head Start program, and welcome to Parent Connect. We're glad that you're here. This is the second in a series of videos that we'll be sharing some tips from our Conscious Discipline Parent curriculum. And today's focus is going to be on the skill of assertiveness and the power of attention. And just like last time, it's going to be broken up into three main points. The first one is just breathe, and that is a focus on creating safety through calming. Be there, which is all about looking at how connections impact cooperation. And then lastly, me first, and that is where we look at the skill that we want to practice, model, and teach for our children to learn. And so we're going to go ahead and get started with just breathe. And so why do we have a focus on breathing? Breathing actually calms the survival state when our system gets overwhelmed with stress. And research tells us that 3 deep breaths will help to cut our stress response in half. So it is a huge, huge tool that we can use whenever we are experiencing upset or overwhelm. And teaching these skills to children help them to learn those first steps of learning how to self-regulate. And breathing puts a pause between when our trigger gets pushed and we are upset and our response to that upset. And hopefully it will help us to not react out of our survival state, but be able to respond out of a higher state where we can actually help our children to learn new things and to regulate themselves as well. Last week, or not week, but last time we were together, we talked about composure, and we learned about star breathing, which means stop and smile, take a deep breath, and relax. And tonight we're going to be learning one of the fan favorites at the Head Start program, which is called balloon breathing. And when we make breathing fun and teach it in times of non-conflict, and when we're not upset, we're embedding that skill so that we can draw on it whenever there is upset. So here is someone who is going to explain a couple of ways that you can balloon breathe. Whoops, let's see if we can get her up here. There she is.
And we're back again. So the next deep breathing exercise that we're going to talk about is balloon breathing. This one is probably the fan favorite of all my kids, only because it's a time that you can be a little bit silly with it. So what balloon breathing is you go like this, interlock our fingers, and we're going to place them on our head. And then when we breathe in, we're going to pretend to build up this really big balloon. So it's going to look like this. And now on the exhale, I give my friends 2 options. You can either go, which is the way that they typically prefer, or just a heavy exhale out. So those are the 2 options for balloon breathing.
Another option, usually whenever I breathe with children, I'll do 3 deep breaths and do but on the last one, I like to pop the balloon. And so that signals that we're done. So if you have a child in or Head Start, or even in early Head Start, they teach this. Ask them about balloon breathing and see if they can show you how to do that. And if not, you can teach it to them. So let's go on to be there. And this is all about using eye contact, touch, presence in a playful situation to build connections with your child. So why a focus on connection? Because connection is the thing that soothes the emotional state. When life is not going our way, We need to know that we're not in it alone and that there is somebody there who cares. And each time we use social play to interact with our children and truly be present with them in the moment, we are building social capital with them. We are strengthening the state of our relationship. And research tells us that cooperation follows connection, and we all want more cooperation. So it's easy a lot of times just to be present physically, but whenever we intentionally embed these fun social games, it helps us to be present completely. That my body and my brain are in the same place with you at the same time. And so again, another favorite in our program is Round and Round the Garden. Goes the teddy bear, 1 step, 2 step, tickle under there. This is one you may know. I'm going to show a little video of a couple of ways that this particular person was doing it with their child. But just know it's not about getting all the words right or getting all the actions right. It's just about being present and playing. It doesn't have to be a teddy bear. And in fact, I do it a lot of times with a dinosaur. Like lots of them prefer a stomp, stomp goes the dinosaur rather than a teddy bear. But here is how that one goes. Let's see if we can get this little gal up. Oops, try that again. Here we go.
I love you rituals. You can start out with their hand. Round and round the garden like a teddy bear. 1 step, 2 step, tickles under there. And there's a variation you can do on their belly. Round and round the garden like a teddy bear. 1 step, 2 step, tickles under there.
So maybe if you guys have access to the chat, you might just put in there if balloon breathing or if Round and Round of the Garden is something that you're familiar with or that you've done with your children and how they respond to that. So the next thing we're going to talk about is our third point, and this is where we're going to spend most of our time, is on the me first. How do I teach my child to follow directions? And I think maybe a better question might be, how do I give directions that my kiddo can follow? I don't know about you, if you've ever been in a situation where somebody's given you directions, maybe to get somewhere, and you feel more confused than before they started to give you the directions. I've had people tell me, well, you just go down thus and so, and then you turn on such and such road, and then you'll see this thing, and then you can't miss it. And I think you have no idea what I am capable of missing. And I'm not sure where I'm going. And so the thing that we have to do whenever we think about how do I teach my children to follow directions, how do I give them directions that they can follow, is we have to focus on thinking about assertiveness and attention. Because assertiveness is giving clear communication. It's all about giving clarity, and it focuses a child on what we want them to do. And that's where the attention comes in, because so many times our attention is on what we don't want our children to do. It's so easy to see what we don't want them to do that all of our focus and our attention goes on what we don't want them to do. But in order to give them directions that they can follow, we have to give them instruction about what we do want them to do. And so it requires us to plug into this power of attention and pay attention to what we're paying attention to, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to give you a couple of statements, and I want you to think about if you feel like that they're giving you clarity, if they are giving you an assertive statement that you could actually follow. So the first one is like, quit it, stop hitting your brother, don't hit. So what did you hear? What did you feel? Did you know what to do with that sort of statement? What was I focused on? All of the focus was on hitting, right? And so I'm drawing all of my attention to hitting. And one of the fundamental things that we learn about assertiveness is the more you focus on something, the more of it you're going to get, right? So we have to change our focus from the hitting to what I do want you to do. And that sounds like this. You wanted to turn with the toy snake. When you want to turn, hold out your hand and say, "May I have a turn, please?" What was the focus on? The focus was on what I wanted the child to do, teaching them a skill, giving them some directions that they could actually follow. So a lot of times, giving directions that our children can follow has to do with, am I giving them something that they can actually do and follow? As adults, it's really easy for us to fall into no, don't, quit, stop, or negative thoughts, because it's really easy to see what we don't want. It takes a little bit more work to focus our attention on, okay, I know I don't want that. What is it that I do want? Because we want to help them to see more positive behaviors, focus on the positive behaviors that we want, and shine the light of our attention on those. Because think about it like this. We have a child and they've just painted themselves, and you're like, "Don't paint on yourself." And so they're like, "Yay, I quit painting on myself." But now they're coloring on the wall. You're like, "Quit coloring on the wall. What are you thinking?" And they're like, "Yay, I quit coloring on the wall." But they've just colored all over the dog. And you're like, ugh. But have I given them the instruction and information or direction to tell them what to do? And whenever all our children hear instruction wise is don't quit, stop, then it can begin to feel like, ugh, I can't do anything right. And sometimes I think we can relate to that even as adults. You know, we need to have clear, concise instruction about what to do. When you want to color, you color on the paper. This is where we color. I can do something with that information, but just information that tells me to don't, stop, quit doesn't give me usable information and give me clarity about what you do want me to do. Think about it for yourself as an adult. If you ordered your child a new bicycle for Christmas, and you open the Amazon box and the directions say, don't connect part A to part B. Part C does not fit on part D. Are you listening to me? Stop. That's not how it goes. Don't make that, try to work it that way. Don't make a mess. Are you going to be able to put that item together from somebody telling you how not to do it? we couldn't. It would be a frustrating experience, and we probably would not accomplish the task. And sometimes I feel like that's probably what it feels like for our children whenever we're giving them instructions. So there's 4 steps to giving assertive instructions. And the first one is to pivot. And what all pivoting is when I focus on the behavior I want to see. I help children to understand what I desire, and I shift my focus from what I don't want to what I do want. And like I said, it is a skill. It takes some work. Sometimes we have to take a minute to think about it. It's really easy to identify what I don't want, but what is it that I do want? So here's a few samples for you. Stop yelling would look like this. Use a voice like mine. A lot of times I'll tell children, match your voice to mine. Because a lot of times we say, use a quiet voice. What's a quiet voice sound like? It sounds like this, match your voice to mine. And amazingly, they will do it. No pushing. Pivot to, say move, please. If you want to get around to someone, pushing is not helpful. It's hurtful. Say move, please. That's a helpful way to get what you want. Stop grabbing. Sounds like, say move, please. Oh, say, may I have a turn, please? Sorry, I had the wrong one. Stop yelling. I already did that one. I think I went backwards. Here we go. Quit pulling on my shirt. When you want my attention, tap me on the shoulder like this. Don't pick your nose. Here, let's use a tissue. So pivoting is all about going from what I don't want to what I do want and stating that clearly, because that's information that I can use when you tell me what to do. The second step is to notice. Notice how you are feeling, because all upset starts with conflict, right? And so you want to notice how you're feeling before you respond to a child. If you're still triggered, if you're still upset, you're not going to be able to think about what you do want. You're still going to be in the mode of just make it stop or want to punish. So take a minute to notice how you're feeling and make sure you're in a higher state than your child is, so that your intention can be helping the child to be successful by teaching them. If you're not ready for it, take a minute, hit the pause button, take another breath, and think about, am I at a place where I'm ready to teach them a new skill or coach them in a skill that they've forgotten about? And so assertiveness is all about providing clarity and teaching children new skills. And if you're still frustrated, you won't be able to do that. So take a minute to notice how you're feeling and notice the behavior that you want to focus your attention on, so that you can actually teach them a new skill. And then that brings us to the third thing about an assertive instruction or command, and that is to use a voice of no doubt. The voice of or tone of assertiveness is just matter of fact. It's a voice of knowing. It's like saying the sky is above me, my sweater is blue. You're just stating a fact. There are other tones that we can use, like a passive tone. A passive tone says, it sounds like a question. It says, can you start cleaning up? Or are you ready to? Do you want to? It's asking the child, do you want to do this? And if it's something they don't want to do, then it's giving a mixed message. We're saying, I want you to do this, but do you want to do this? And then when they go no, we get frustrated. So some of us are more passive than others. I by nature am a very passive person, and so I can go in and talk to a teacher about say, you know, you need to use a more assertive tone, okay? So I have to work on that one myself a lot. And then there is the aggressive tone, an aggressive voice, and that sort of tone sounds like a threat. It is like, clean up now or else. There's a threat attached to an aggressive voice that is like, you either do it or else. And an assertive voice simply sounds like a statement of fact. It's time to pick up the blocks and put them in the bucket right here. And so assertiveness requires that we use a tone that not just with our words is telling children what to do, but with our tone is telling them that it's time to do this. We're going to do this, and makes it clear. And you might just take a minute and reflect, because depending on your temperament and depending on your experience, a lot of times we fall into one of these sort of voices or one of these sort of tones on a regular basis. I know as a parent, I am passive by nature, but if passive didn't work, I would skip right on over to aggressive. So rather than just being assertive, I would go from passive to aggressive. You know, was trying to be nice, but that didn't work. So now I'm going to get aggressive in how I'm telling you to do this. So just think about your tone and how you are saying what you are saying. And I want to show you why this is so important, why your tone is so important. You know, I always thought that talking and communicating were like the same thing, that they meant the same thing. But there is more to what we communicate than just our words. In fact, our words have the least impact compared to these other factors. So you have the words, what you actually articulate and say, and then you have your tone. And that is how you say what you say, how you speak it. And then there's the third one, which is body language, which is our observable actions. All three of these components make up what communication is. And what blows my mind still every time I share it is that only 7% of what I communicate is through my words. 38% of what I communicate is through my tone, because you can say the exact same words, and depending on what tone you say them with, they can mean exactly the opposite of one another. If I'm being sarcastic, then I could say, I love your hair. But if I say, oh, I love your hair, I'm saying the very same words, but they mean the exact opposite, right? And so our tone is important. And whenever we are teaching and instructing our kids, we want a tone that is a voice of knowing that says, this is how we do this. And rather than making empty threats or asking them permission to give them an instruction. And then our body language, our observable actions is 55% of what we communicate. Our actions truly do speak louder than our words, because to truly communicate authentically, all three of those things need to be in agreement. My words, my attitude, and my actions all need to match. That's how we truly are an example and model things for our children, is not say, do what I say, not as I do, but whenever we actually do and model and have a heart attitude that all are in alignment with one another. So tone is important. How we say what we say, it makes a difference. And then body language is so huge. That leads us to maybe the fourth point about assertiveness, and that is to paint a picture. That means use descriptive language and motions to help paint the picture for children. For instance, if I was going to say to a child, I want you to hold my hand, then I need to hold my hand out and show them, this is where I want you to put your hand so we can hold hands. In fact, Conscious Discipline has a formula for this, and it's called name, verb, paint. And basically, it's, first of all, I'm going to say their name and make eye contact with the child. And if you are able to, go get on their level where they are and actually make eye contact with them. I would like $1 for every time I gave an instruction that no one was listening to. We have to get their attention before we start instructing. So name, make eye contact and say the child's name. And then a verb is an action word. Give them something that they can do. Give them an action word of what you want them to see. Hold my hand and stand right here in front of me. And then paint the picture for them with your body. Use gestures with your words that give clarity. A lot of times we use these words that children don't even know exactly what they mean. I think about when I would tell my children to pay attention. What does it mean to pay attention? It means that you're listening with your ears and your eyes and your heart. You're listening to me. That's what attention is. And so paint that picture. Don't rely on just your words to give your children that clarity that they need in order to follow directions. Paint that picture. Hold the hand out and show them. Or if it's time to put things up, show them in the bucket. This is where they go. And another thing that we do in our classrooms is we actually use real pictures. We use visuals to help children see what it is that we are going to do next. And you can do this. We have visual schedules on the walls. Sometimes we have little pictures, visuals of in different centers. This is where this goes. You may sit by your friends and play. You may play by yourself, but you may not kick your friends, and have actual pictures that show and give clarity to children. These are a couple of samples of bedtime routines that you can put together a little schedule even at your home. Anytime you have chaos, it's a good idea to use a visual because it brings clarity to the situation. So here's a couple examples of, this is what we do when we get ready for bed. We brush our teeth, we take a bath, we put on our PJs, we read a book, we go to the bathroom, we do a love ritual, and then it's lights out. And so these are the sort of things that can bring clarity and help to paint that picture. Oops, I went backwards again, sorry. Another thing you can do, if you say, go pick up your room, a lot of times what you think is a clean room and what they think is a clean room is two different things. And so one of the things that you can do is take a picture of what the room looks like when it's clean. When your room looks like this, you'll be ready to do something else. And so visuals are a great way to bring clarity and clear instruction to your children too. So here's what I'm going to ask you. What did you connect to of the 4 things that we talked about that help to bring clarity to your children, to give instruction and direction that they can follow? Assertiveness includes focusing on what you want rather than what you don't want. 2, it's all about having an intention to teach and help them be successful. If I'm still upset, I need to breathe again till I can get to the point that I can actually think about what I do want rather than what I don't want. So make sure your attention is to teach. Thirdly, use a voice of knowing. Think about your tone, and if you're using that passive, aggressive, or assertive voice. And then lastly, paint a picture. Use that formula of name, verb, paint. Use visuals, things that will help a child to see clearly what it is that you are instructing them to do. And so those are the 4 points that I wanted to share when it comes to me first. Sometimes we get really frustrated when our kids aren't doing what we want, but these are things that will help us to ensure that we are giving them direction that they can actually follow. So that is what I have for you tonight. And I hope that you'll take some time to think about these 4 elements and how maybe you can start using them to help build instruction that your child can follow, and focus your attention on what you do want rather than what you don't. And